Mr. Scott Eccles.
Oh, Mr. Garcia.
I'm sorry, I did not recognize you at once.
Oh.
Please allow me to carry your case.
That's very civil of you. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry the weather has been unkind for your visit.
Ah, well, unkind for you, perhaps, but we British, you know, we're hardy souls. Ah. The county of Surrey is particularly interesting as far as maps are concerned. I'm looking forward to showing you my entire collection of Surrey maps. I mean, there's Maul and Ogleby. I've got one or two here I can show you. He used to draw. I've got one or two.
Eso va a ser todo por ahora. Puedes ensillar el caballo y guardar el coche.
Ah, this is your house, is it?
Yes, please. You're welcome.
It's very nice. Very nice.
I suppose, Watson, we must look upon you as a man of letters. How do you define the word grotesque?
Grotesque? Oh, strange? Remarkable?
No. Surely, there's more to it than that. Some underlying suggestion of the tragic, the terrible. If you cast your mind back to those narratives with which you've inflicted a long, suffering public, you will see how often the word grotesque has deepened into the criminal.
Suppose the affair of the red-headed men was grotesque enough at the outset.
Huh?
Oh, that most grotesque affair. The 5 orange pips.
Yes, which led straight to a murderous conspiracy. Another word puts me on the alert.
Oh, have you achieved that?
I've just had the most incredible and grotesque experience. May I consult you, Scott Eccles? Post office, Charing Cross.
Ah. A man or a woman?
Oh, a man! No woman would send a reply-paid telegram. She would have come.
Did you see him?
Oh, my dear Watson. You know How bored I've been since we locked up Colonel Carruthers. Life is commonplace. The newspapers are sterile. Audacity and romance seem to have passed forever from the criminal world. Of course I'll see him. Unless I'm very much mistaken, this is our client.
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mrs. Hudson.
Well, are you Mr. Holmes?
Certainly.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, I have just had a most singular and unpleasant experience.
Really?
Yes, never in my life have I been subject to such embarrassment and been placed in such a position.
Please sit down, Mrs. Scott Eccles, my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson. Now, in the first place, may I ask why you have come to me at all?
Well, sir, it didn't appear to be a matter which concerned the police. Yet, when you've heard the facts, you must admit I couldn't just leave it where it was. Now, private detectives, they're a class with whom I have no sympathy.
Sit! Mr. Scott Eccles.
Well, nonetheless, having heard your name,
Right,
I
sir.
decided...
Now, in the second place, why did you not come to me at once?
What do you mean?
Well, it is now 2:15. A telegram was dispatched about 1. No one could glance at your toilet in a tower without seeing that your disturbance dates from the moment of your waking.
What? You're right, Mr. Holmes. Yes, I never gave a thought to my toilet. I was only too glad to get out of such a house. Oh, no, thank you. No. You see, I've been running round making inquiries before I came here. See, I called at the house agents, you know. Oh, yes. And they said that Mr. Garcia's rent was paid up all right and that everything was in order in Wisteria Lodge.
No, come, sir. You know, you're like my friend Watson, who has the bad habit of telling his stories wrong end foremost. Now, please, arrange your thoughts and let me know in their due sequence exactly what those events are, which have sent you out, unbrushed and unkempt, with your dress boots and waistcoat buttoned awry, in search of advice and assistance.
Well, I'm a bachelor, and being of a sociable turn, I cultivate a large number of friends.
At the table of one of them recently, I met a young fellow named Garcia, a pleasant chap of Spanish descent, connected in some way with the embassy. We discovered a common interest in cartography, or so I thought. That's the study of old maps. The plan was to retrace Surrey as Thomas Moole engraved it some 50 years ago. Well, as soon as I arrived yesterday evening, I knew something was wrong. The atmosphere of the place. The house was tumbled down, depressing. Garcia had told me he had a wonderful cook, a half-breed he'd picked up on his travels. But the dinner, well, it was so ill-prepared and served with such bad grace that it was barely edible. I can assure you that there were many times in the course of the evening I wished I could have invented some excuse to leave.
What did you say?
Well, the ruse is fascinating. John Ogilvy.
Across the heathland.
No, it wasn't just the heathland, it was all over the county. I say, are you feeling all right?
Yes, sorry. Luis, some more wine for our guest.
Yeah. Hombre, ¿qué pasa? Cálmate. ¿Qué te pasa? Escucha. ¿Qué te pasa? Mira, ¿qué te pasa? Cálmate.
Sí.
Está llamando la atención.
Entonces, espera. Ahí viene algo, ya. Anda a la puerta.
Are we expecting company? I would like a drink of that, if it's possible.
And he made no remark as to the contents of the note?
None. But from that moment, he gave up all pretense of conversation. He just sat there, smoking these endless cigarettes. About 11, I was glad to get to bed.
2 hours later, he looked in at my door.
Did you ring?
Did I ring?
Ah, please don't wake up. It's nearly 1 o'clock. Please go back to sleep. Good night.
And now I come to the amazing part of my tale. When I woke, it was broad daylight, nearly 9. I had particularly asked to be called at 8, so I was very much astonished at this forgetfulness. I say, is anybody here? I'd like some hot water. I rang for the servant. There was no response. Somebody? I say, is there a servant available? Oh, this is damnable. I went from room to room. All were deserted. Even my host's room. The bed had never been slept in.
Foreign host, foreign footman, foreign cook, all vanished in the night.
Your experience is, so far as I know, perfectly unique. Now, what else can you tell me?
Well, I was furious. I packed my bags and I banged the front door behind me and I set out for Isha. And then I called at Allen Brothers, the land agents, and found it was from them that the villa had been rented.
Rented?
Well, you see, I couldn't believe that they'd gone simply to make a fool of me. I thought, you know, it must be the rent. But I was wrong. See, the agent thanked me for my warning, but said that the rent had been paid in advance.
By the Spanish embassy, I imagine.
I called at the Spanish embassy. The man is unknown to them. They also asked my friend, who introduced us, and he seemed to know less about Garcia than I did.
Now, this house. Wisteria Lodge. I wonder if it's still as you left it. What's troubling you, Watson?
But I fear some mundane explanation for events may await us upon our arrival.
It's possible we can thank our lucky fate, which has rescued us for a few hours from the insufferable fatigues of idleness. Ah.
This gentleman recommends the Bull in the village. That's if we're to stay overnight. I asked him if he knew Garcia or his servants.
Did he?
No.
Nothing unusual about the outside. Let's see what the interior holds for us.
I don't suppose we can be charged with housebreaking, can we? What earth could leave such a mess?
Yes, indeed. Glance around the house.
Mr. Holmes. Welcome to Wisteria Lodge, Mr. Holmes. Inspector Baines of the Surrey Constabulary. This is Constable Downing. And you are Mr. John Scott Eccles of Popham House, Lee.
I am.
Oh, Mr. Scott Eccles, we've been following you about all the morning.
You traced him through his telegram, I presume.
Exactly, Mr. Holmes. We picked up the scent at Charing Cross Post Office.
But what do you want? Why'd you follow me?
We wish a statement, Mr. Scott Eccles, as to the events which led up to the death of Mr. Aloysius Garcia of Wisteria Lodge, near Isha.
Dead, did you say?
Oh, yes, he is dead, yes.
But how? An accident?
Murder, sir. If ever there was one on earth.
Oh.
Oh, God, this is awful. And you don't mean that I'm suspected?
Well, sir, your note was found on the dead man's body. And from it we learned that you had planned to stay here in this house last night.
So I did.
Oh, you did you?
Wait. Baines, I mean, surely all you need is a simple statement.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, but it is my duty to warn Mr. Scott Eccles that it may be used against him.
Ah, this is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson, Inspector Baines.
Yes, of course.
Doctor, your attention.
Oh, Mr. Scott Eccles, you look as if you could do with a drink. I found some brandy in the library. Follow me, I'll show you where it is.
I don't know. Oh, thank you.
El perro sta mangiando tu vestito blanco. Non mi importa, non mi importa.
I can assure you, Inspector, that, you know, every word I've said, it is the truth.
I'm bound to say, Mr. Scott Eccles, that everything you've said does agree with the facts as they've come to our notice. For example, the note that arrived during dinner.
Mr. Scott Eccles, what became of the note?
Well, Garcia rolled it up and threw it in the fire.
What do you say to that, Baines?
It was a dog grate, Mr. Holmes. He overpitched it. I found this unburnt at the back.
You must have made a very careful examination of the house to find a single pellet of paper.
Oh, I did, Mr. Holmes, I did. It's my way. The note's written on ordinary cream-laid paper with a watermark. It's a quarter sheet. The paper's cut off in 2 snips with the short-bladed scissors. It's been folded twice and sealed with scarlet wax. It's addressed to Mr. Garcia, Wisteria Lodge. And it says, our own colours, green and white. Green open, white shut. Main stairs, 1st corridor, 7th right. Green bays. Godspeed. D. It's in a woman's writing, done with a very sharp-pointed pen. But the address is either done with a different pen or by someone else, because it's thicker and bolder, as you may see, Mr. Holmes.
It's a remarkable note. I really must congratulate you on your attention to detail. There are a few trifling points which might perhaps be added. The seal is a sleeve link. What else is in such a shape? The scissors were bent, nail scissors. Short as the 2 snips are, you can distinctly see the slight curve in each.
Oh, I thought I'd squeezed it dry, Mr. Holmes. But But I see there was some still left over after all. I'm bound to say that I make nothing of the note, except that something's on hand and a woman, as usual, is at the bottom of it.
Oh. Well, I'm very glad you found the note, Inspector, because it corroborates my story. But, you know, I do beg to point out that I haven't yet heard what has happened to Mr. Garcia, or what has become of his household.
As for Mr. Garcia, well, that's easily answered. He was found dead on Oxshott Common this morning. His head had been beaten to a pulp by a sandbag, or some such object, which crushed rather than wounded. Apparently, he'd been first struck down from behind, but his assailant went on beating him long after he was dead. It was a very furious assault.
Ah, I mean, this activity that we saw as we approached the house, were there any footsteps or clues as to the criminal?
None. As yet.
Had Garcia been robbed?
No sign of robbery, no.
Well, our tenants seem to have left little or nothing behind them.
Apart from the clothes, some pipes, a few novels, 2 of them in Spanish. One of them is missing.
Yeah. We might assume the G stands for Garcia. Family heirloom, perhaps.
The other was not on the body, nor has it been found in the vicinity, though my men are still looking. Do you wish to look around the house?
A brief look.
My room.
Holmes. Holmes! Holmes!
Watson! What have you seen?
Could have been the devil for all I know. Staring eyes at the window. Negroid features, mulatto-like. He's got away across the fields. Maybe just as well. I don't think I could have laid hands on him.
Ah, but it is. If he is all the same scale as his foot, then he is certainly a giant.
Well, whoever he was, whatever he wanted, is gone for the present. And we have more important things to attend to. Downing, you stay here. And you, sir, shall come to the station with me.
Yes, sir.
And let me have a written statement.
Yes, certainly. I'll come at once.
I hope you don't mind our collaborating with you, Inspector.
Highly honoured, Mr. Holmes. Highly honoured.
Inspector, is there any clue as to the exact hour of the man's death?
1 o'clock. It rained about that time, and the death certainly occurred before the rain.
No! That is perfectly impossible, Mr. Baines. No, his voice is very unmistakable. I could swear to it that it was he who addressed me in my room at that very hour. Well, he spoke to me in, that funny accent of his. He said, he's nearly 1 o'clock.
Remarkable, but one must not confuse the unlikely with the impossible.
What does he mean by that?
Certainly some strange people occupied that house, Mr. Holmes. One of them is dead. Did some of his companions follow him and murder him? If so, we should have them. For every report is watched. But my views are different, Mr. Holmes. Yes, sir. My views are very different.
You have a theory.
And I'll work it myself, Mr. Holmes. Your name is already made. I've yet to make mine. And I should like to be able to say afterwards that I solved it without your help.
Then do you follow your path and I will follow mine. Goodbye, Mr. Scott Eccles.
Goodbye, Mr. Holmes.
Scott Eccles.
Now, let us consider this note. Is there a woman involved, a jealous husband? Godspeed. Godspeed, D. Now, that must be our guide.
The man was a Spaniard. I suggest that the D stands for Dolores. It's a common female name in Spain.
A Spaniard would write to a Spaniard in Spanish, Watson.
Siéntete.
¿Qué le pasa? Rey, que no se siente muy bien.
Silencio, niñas.
Henderson, Highgale, Georgeford.
Mr. Holmes, look what I've found in a gorse bush.
Excellent.
Sorry, I seem to...
Dejadlo, niños, ¿qué hacéis?
Estaba espiando
Sí,
la
sí,
casa.
sí, fuera, fuera.
Mientras jugábamos.
Váyanse a jugar. ¿Por qué lo dejaste entrar? ¿Qué pasa aquí, señor? You are trespassing.
I'm terribly sorry. I seem to have lost my direction.
Is it your custom to wander
Ah,
into houses
Dr.
unannounced?
Wakefield, my friend and fellow cartographer.
Yes, indeed.
You know, we were so engrossed in trying to trace the bridle path to the now vanished hamlet of Ogdor, St. Mary, that we mislaid each other. And since we were late for Mr. Henderson, I thought, I'm so glad you found your way here.
Well, I did my
I
best,
very
but
much
unfortunately,
regret that Mr. Henderson is too busy to see you today.
No, Lucas. I will see you. Gentlemen.
The purpose of our visit is to inquire into the history of High Gable, which we believe has an intriguing and bloodthirsty past. I mean, since the days of the English Civil Wars.
I would have no knowledge of that. I'm only a recent invader.
Ah. But there are local records in the library.
There are no records of any past violence in this house.
I see. Then I will detain you no more. Good day.
I thought you were in London.
For the morning only.
Well, with your usual reluctance to confide your thoughts to me, I exercised my own mind in the matter. You'd circled two names on your list, Henderson and High Gable.
Well, the others are prosaic, respectable people, far aloof from romance. But this man, Henderson, he's a very singular creation.
Yes, indeed.
As you may have noticed, no tea for me, the house is double-winged, one side the servants, the other side the family. There is one single connecting door for the Henderson family meals.
Oh, you sure you couldn't observe all that in the short time we were there, Holmes?
Ah, there are no better instruments for gossip than discharged servants, and I was lucky enough to find one who had been sacked by his imperious master, Henderson, in a fit of violent temper. Now, the Henderson girls whom you encountered have a governess, a Miss Burnett, an Englishwoman. Here is a very singular fact. She has not been seen since the night of the murder. She has utterly vanished.
I've seen her. Of course! I've seen her, and she is alive. I saw her at the window at High Gable. My God, a prisoner. She slipped my mind. The moment those awful gorgons descended upon me. She is alive. I've seen her. That's the man I saw and chased.
Baines has arrested the wrong man. Come, Watson, quickly. We must stop him.
Is he the murderer?
Did he kill the Spaniard on the common? Where did you capture him?
This man is the murdered man's cook who disappeared on the night of the crime. We believe there were valuables left in the house and that their abstraction was the motive. The man had been seen in the vicinity of the house once before. The second time, subdue him, Higgins, blanket. The second time we left an ambuscade for him. We shall be applying for remand when the prisoner is brought before the magistrates. That will be all for now, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Was it on the... Where did you capture him?
Baines, I am not convinced that you are on the right line.
Mr. Holmes doesn't want you to commit yourself too far unless you're sure.
Oh, you're very kind, gentlemen. But, we did agree to work on our own lines, didn't we? And that's what I'm doing. You're welcome always to my news. This fellow's as strong as a cart horse and fierce as the devil. He nearly bit off Constable Downing's thumb before they managed to master him. He speaks hardly any English, and we can get nothing out of him but grunts.
And you think that you have evidence that he murdered his late master?
I didn't say so, Mr. Holmes. I didn't say so. We all have our own little ways. You will go yours, and I will go mine. That was the agreement.
Sibley. I think Baines is riding for the fall.
I'd have to agree with you there.
You appreciate our difficulty, Watson. There's nothing upon which we can apply for a warrant. And with our worthy inspector making his arrest, our theory would seem fantastic if laid before a magistrate.
And yet you think the lady is in danger of her life?
Yes, I'm sure of it, Watson. Therefore, we must take the law into our own hands.
Top left bay.
We could reach it from that outhouse. They're making for the station for 5 o'clock to London.
Right.
Domino.
evidence I wanted. We were both on the same scent from the start.
You went after Henderson, too?
Why so? Well, you first, and then Dr. Watson here came crawling through the undergrowth at High Gable. I was up a tree observing you both. It was just a question of who got the evidence first.
Why did you arrest the mulatto?
Well, I was sure that Henderson, as he calls himself, felt he was suspected, and he would make no move so long as he thought he was in danger, so I arrested the wrong man.
You know, you will rise high in your profession, Inspector.
Oh.
You have instinct and intuition.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. But we can't arrest without Miss Burnett's evidence, can we?
I shall be able to give you that in a moment, but tell me, who is this man, Henderson?
He's Don Murillo, known as the Tiger of San Pedro.
One of the most dangerous men out of Central America.
Oh, indeed. A most lewd and bloodthirsty tyrant.
Who imposed his odious vices upon a cowering people for almost 12 years.
Was it the San Pedro colours, green and white, that first put you onto it?
That and my visit to London, to the Spanish Embassy and the Foreign Office. Now, please, this is your case, Inspector.
Oh. 5 years ago, there was a rising against the tyrant. But it was an empty palace they stormed. Don Murillo, his secretary, 2 children, and all the wealth had escaped by ship. And from that moment, they disappeared from the face of the earth.
His identity has been a subject of constant comment in the European press.
We discovered him a year ago.
Miss Burnett, how came you into this matter, Miss Burnett? An English lady in such a murderous affair.
Because there is no other way in the world by which justice can be gained. What does the law of England care about the rivers of blood shed so many years ago in San Pedro, or the shipload of treasure that this man has stolen from us? To you, they're like crimes committed in some other planet. We know. My real name is Signora Victor Durando. My husband was the minister of San Pedro in London. He met and married me there. A nobler man never lived upon the earth. Unhappily, Murillo heard of his excellence and recalled him on some pretext and shot him by a stroke of premonition. My husband had refused to take me with him.
Then came the downfall of the monster. He escaped, as you have described, but the many whose lives he had ruined, whose loved ones had suffered torture and death at his hands, would not let the matter rest. We banded ourselves into a society which would never be dissolved until the work was done. It was my part to attach myself to his household and keep the others in touch with his movements. I secured the position as governess. He little knew that the woman who faced him at every meal was the woman whose husband he had hurried to eternity. I smiled on him, did my duty to his children, and bided my time.
An attempt was made in Paris and failed. We zigzagged here and there swiftly over Europe to throw off our pursuers, and finally returned to High Gable. Garcia had been waiting there for nearly a year with 2 trusty companions, all fired with the same reasons of revenge.
Who was Garcia?
The son of Fernando Garcia, one of the former highest dignitaries of San Pedro, who was murdered like your husband. This note you sent, you say it was intercepted?
During the day, Murillo took every precaution and never went out save with his satellite, Lucas. Even at night, the man was forever on the alert and continually changed his room. We had arranged that I would send Garcia final instructions. The doors would be open, and the signal of a green or white light in a window which faced the drive was to give notice if all was safe, or if the attempt had better be postponed.
To whom are you writing this letter? Which describes, it would seem, the room in which I intend to sleep tonight. Who is your confederate? Who is your confederate? What is your real name, Miss Burnett?
My name is Giorando.
Giorando's widow. My house. Looking after my children.
Déjame matarla ahora, traidor.
Oh, Mr. Garza, no podríamos escapar las consecuencias.
You can kill me now. What is my life worth? You have destroyed everything that I love.
Who are you writing to? Tell me, Senora Durando. Who?
It's a name you fear. He's waiting for you.
Garcia? It's Garcia.
Garcia.
¿Dónde? ¿Dónde?
Wisteria Lodge. He's waiting to dispatch you to hell. You fiends.
I knew the boy well. His father was once my dearest friend.
You murdered him.
He betrayed me. And so did your husband. And now they send the wives and sons. Will you never learn? I am indestructible.
At first, they were of a mind to let him enter the house and kill him as a detected burglar. But they feared the inquiry might publicly expose them.
Uno para todos.
Todos para uno.
justice will come. That is as certain as the rise of tomorrow's sun. I have no doubt that my life, too, hung in the balance. For most of the time, I was confined to my room, terrorized by the most horrible threats to break my spirit. Occasionally, I was allowed out, but only when they had first drugged my food. And it was in this state that you found me at the station. And thanks to this good man, I am beyond their power forever.
Well, Inspector, our police work is done, but our legal work begins.
Exactly, Mr. Holmes, yes. Garcia's death in the hands of a plausible lawyer could look like an act of self-defense.
Well, I think better of the law than that. Self-defense is one thing, but to entice a man in cold blood with the object of murdering him is another, whatever danger you fear from him. I think we shall see justice done at the next Guildford Assizes.
Of course, you have released the mulatto.
Yes, sir, he's a free man again.
And your man is with the fugitives on the train?
He is, sir, yes, and I've wired Scotland Yard to have their men at Waterloo Station to receive them, yes.
You know, I really must congratulate you, Inspector. Your powers, if I may say so, without offense, are superior to your opportunities.
You're right, Mr. Holmes. In the provinces, we stagnate. A case like this gives a man a chance.